Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. This is Reverend Robert, pastor of the Catholic Apostolic Church in Muskegon, Michigan. You'll notice that I've changed titles. Instead of using Father, which is typically used by the Roman Catholic Church. I'm going to use Reverend, just to make things clear that I'm not association with the Roman Catholic Church, nor am I a spokesman for them at all. I am absolutely delighted that you're on this journey with me. I think that you'll find this remarkable. I think that you'll find it, hopefully, that this is what you've been looking for. This is a place where we support one another, where we express love and concern for each other. There's no negativity, there's no gossip, there's no typical Facebook drama. This is the safe place where we can come and we can express how we feel on our spiritual journey. Today I'd like to give you some insights into what I see and have come to know about Jesus Christ. Now, some of this you've never heard before, I'm pretty sure, because the organized churches don't want you to know this, because it will change how you view life. Now, I am not here, and hopefully none of us are going to be involved in we're not going to bash any church, anybody's beliefs. Everyone has a right to worship whatever deity they want in any form, however they want to express that. That's fine. My slant and the slant of the Catholic Apostolic Church is Jesus Christ, and that's who I'll be focusing on. I'll try to produce a video each week. Sometimes I'll read a quote from Scripture and ask you to discuss that. And perhaps someplace down the road, who knows, someday we might be able to even stream this live and have participation live. That's a goal of mine too. Here's what I think is so fascinating about Jesus, and why I believe that the LGBT community can really associate with Jesus Christ. Now, you'll notice in the Bible that there are these huge gaps of time where nothing is written about Jesus. We've celebrated his birth. We saw briefly some of him at the beginning of his life. We saw him again when he preaches at the temple. And then there's these big gaps of time, which a lot of theologians say is between the ages of 12 and 30. What happened during that time? Here's what I believe, and here's why I'm so fascinated with Jesus Christ, because I think he is relatable to all of us. Jesus, when he was born totally human. He had no clue that he was the Son of God. He was a baby, born to Virgin Mary. Joseph became a stepfather, and that was his role, guardian, protector, father figure on earth to Jesus. So as Jesus was born, and as he began to grow up, he did the normal things other kids do. Got into mischief, fell down, cried, got scraped up in the knees playing with other kids, fell off something, needed to take naps, needed a diaper change, needed to be fed. All of these strictly human things. So that's, as we see him progressing through time, he becomes aware of who he is. He has no clue. He has no clue to who he is. His first inkling might have been when he, made some comments at the temple. And then there's, again, this huge gap where we don't see or hear anything from him till he's about 30, and he starts gathering the apostles. So what happens in that time? Lots of theories. Did Jesus have a relationship with someone? Did Jesus get married? Did he have children? I personally believe that he did not get married and have children, because I think that he began to understand that his mission and that his relationship with God as Father was all-consuming for him. That's what he was there for. Now, this is not something that just came to him one day. This is something that through the years he began to understand, began to feel that there's a relationship, that there's something inside of him that is different from other people, that his relationships were different, that he saw himself differently. So that when Jesus finally comes and starts calling the apostles to follow him, begins to preach, begins to understand more and more what his relationship with his Father is. Those are some fascinating things that we can look at. Because when we look at ourselves, look at how we've changed. Look at how we've grown as people. You know, we came the same way, basically. We're born, we're infants, we need to be taken care of. We spend childhood playing and discovering things and trying to, figure out life. And then we progress on. And during that time, especially for you who are in the LGBT community, you knew at that time that something was different. That there was something different about you than there was other people. And how did you explore that? How did you deal with that? How did you go about and look for people who were similar? How did you get together with them? You see, there's just great parallels here between Jesus' discovering who he was and then what he needed to do with that. Now, some of his great teachings, the Sermon on the Mount, when he's healing Lazarus, people look at all of these things and say, well, there's no proof that he did any of those things. What is there proof of? How do you prove love? How do you prove anything? It's a lived experience. It's a reality. And it's always been that reality in my life. It's nothing that I came to, instantly. I first joined religious life in 1973 when I was at Lewis University. Went there and got in the community of the Christian Brothers. That was my first religious community when I joined the Christian Brothers. And it was a remarkable time, very interesting during the 70s. We were at Lewis University. That's where our formation house was. And as I grew into my faith and understanding where I was, I studied. I was took vows, first vows, in 1976 when I finished the novitiate in Windsor, Ontario. And then I was assigned to St. Patrick High School, where I taught for 3 years and was a coach. And during that time, it was a spiritual awakening, especially when I was in Windsor from 75 to 76, because it was a time of intense personal study. We rarely left the house. We could go out for walks and things like that. But basically, all of our activities were right in the house. There were about, I think, 14 of us that lived together in the house, or 12. And it was a wonderful community. And that's what we were about. We were about forming community. Now, as the years progressed, unfortunately, my view of community I didn't find that shared with the people that I was with. So several years after that, I left the Christian Brothers. And then just went back into what we call secular life, finished school, had jobs, worked. But this calling never left me. It never left me. And finally, several years later, I found the group of the Catholic Diocese of One Spirit and was accepted into them and was ordained a priest with that fine group of men and women who have really impacted my life a great deal. So when we look at Jesus, the things, the parts about him that I really believe strongly in, not only were his preaching, and that did he heal people? Absolutely he healed people. I have no doubt about that at all, that he healed people. Now, here's the part that churches don't tell you. They don't emphasize this. Jesus said to his disciples, to the apostles, if you believe as I do, you will do the same things as me and greater things. Oh, well, what does that tell us? That tells us if we really believe, does that mean that we can perform miracles in people's lives, that we can change, that we can help people form communities of faith? Absolutely. I've seen it time and time again in my life. But notice that Jesus didn't say, okay, you've got to find some organized religion, you've got to be a part of them, you've got to go through all this dogma and jump through all these hoops. He never said that. He said, if you believe in God, if you believe as I believe and are willing to do what I do, to go through, to discover, to suffer, you will be able to do exactly what I do. I totally, totally believe that. And then what happens? Jesus has the Last Supper with the apostles, where in the Catholic tradition and in some other Christian traditions, we consider that to be the first Mass that was ever celebrated. Jesus breaking bread with his brothers and saying, I need you to remember me. I need you to do this in my memory. This bread is my body. This cup of wine is my blood. And sharing that with them so that they would remember what he was going to do for them. And I think that is so fascinating. Not only was that call to community fascinating, but then when he's betrayed and he's praying in the garden, Gethsemane, what does he say? He said, man, he was afraid. He was scared. He said, I don't want to do this. Let this cup pass from me. But if it's your will, then let your will be done. And that's what his prayer to the Father was. So here we see Jesus coming into the world just as we did. Growing up, exploring things, finding that there's something different about him, that there's something unique, that he needs to act on that. And then we see him trying to develop a community with people who are similar to him. He preaches to forgive people who will hate him. Look at the comparisons in the LGBT community. Look at how you've grown up. How, again, you've discovered things about yourself. How you've looked for a community that you could share things with. And look at the suffering that you've endured. Look at Jesus on the cross. What does he do? He forgives the sinner that he's with. He forgives what people have done to him, how they're crucifying him. And who's there with him? His mother and Mary Magdalene. What an awesome thing. Those of you who are mothers, I think that there's a great example that you can get from looking at the Blessed Mother. Here's a woman who is told that she is going to have a child, and that he's going to be very special, and he's going to be a Messiah. And she doubts that. Well, how can this happen to me? But look at what she's gone through. Look at how she stayed with her son up until the moment of his death. Look at how she took care of him. Look at how she suffered with him. And look at when everyone else abandoned him, she was there in the final moments with him. What a wonderful role model from others. Look at Joseph. Poor Joseph. We never even hear about Joseph in the Bible. Yet Joseph was in charge of teaching Jesus, of making sure that he understood their history, of probably sharing his craft with him as a woodsman, making different things, going around doing odd jobs, taking care of things, teaching Jesus, being that father figure, being that role model for him. And for some reason, the poor guy doesn't get any ink, in the Bible, but there he is. He's still doing his part and doing what he can to help. And maybe he doesn't even fully understand what's going on. We don't know, because we never hear about Joseph. So I challenge you, I encourage you to look at the man Jesus, the human Jesus, and watch his transformation from someone who was born to someone who discovers who he is, someone who says, there's something more about me, and goes on to find a community, to establish love and acceptance and forgiveness and inclusion. And during Jesus' entire time, as you look at the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Jesus never says, whoa, you gay people, you can't come in. This is just for these other guys. Never says that. Now, don't you think if he was so adamant about homosexuals that that would have been written, that something would have been said about that, but it wasn't. Now, his disciples, made reference to it and made concrete statements about that, but that's them saying that. That's not Jesus. So I think that there's a great deal that Christianity has to offer. I think I've always gotten a great deal of strength from my belief in Jesus Christ. And I think that if we together can talk about what's going on, how this developed, and what a great correlation that there is between the infant and the God, between yourselves being born and coming to the understanding of who you are. And to the transgender community, what an awakening. What to be able to look at yourself and say, this is not me. This isn't me. My soul, my being, and you know that from my videos I'm very big on soul, because I think that's the essence of who we are as people. Nothing else. Not how we look, body, gender, none of those things. It's who we believe in our soul we are, and that we have to take that belief and then we have to express that. And it's difficult. It's difficult to do that. And I understand that. And the more time that I spend with you and the more time that I talk with you, the more difficult that I see that it is. The more hatred, prejudice, our young people committing suicide because they can't stand being bullied any longer. Those things just tear at my heart. It just crushes me every time I read another story. So what are we doing here in the Catholic Apostolic Church? Now understand the word Catholic means universal. Apostolic means to be like the apostles, to follow Jesus and to serve. And the church as a community of people. So I see all of this, and which is why I established the church many years ago, was to follow Jesus, to be his disciples, to do good in the world, and to form a community, because I think forming a community is so essential. It is so essential in our lives. And I hope that the LGBT community can come together more and more and more as time goes on. Not only, and not to be exclusive, to allow allies in, to allow prayer warriors, to allow anybody that says, I am going to support you because I believe in your journey. And that's what it's all about, your journey. Man, it's so exciting. And it's so wrought with peril. All of us, how many times have you just said, I just cannot do this, I've had enough. I've had enough in my own experience. And I'm going to share some very deeply personal things with you that I've really never shared with anybody else. I remember when I was in Windsor, 76, I was really torn between, and I had a spiritual advisor, a nun who was just a marvelous person. And I was talking with her one day, and she said, Rob, she said, you need to make a decision. You have one foot in religious life, and you have one foot in the secular world. And she looked at me and she said, move one of them. And that was so powerful for me, because here I am in this religious community getting ready to profess vows, poverty, chastity, and obedience, and I'm still like, oh man, this is difficult. This is a difficult thing. If anybody says that Christianity is easy, I don't think that you're living fully as a Christian, because I think it's difficult to give things up. I think it's difficult to forgive. I think it's difficult to love your enemy. Yet that's what we're called to do, to serve people. And the serving of people was never any big deal for me. I mean, I've really done that my whole life and found a great value in it. So, but that decision had to be made at that time. So, I did. And even though my first experience was not the community that I wanted to be in, eventually I did find the community. And now I found this community with you. And I'm so excited. I'm so honored every time I read a post from you, or that I've seen that, maybe 40 people have joined. And I know that every week, you're going to say to a friend of yours, hey, try this out. Come with us on this journey, because it's going to be exciting, and we're going to support one another. And we're going to look at some truths that have been hidden from you. And one of the great truths of all time is that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, became man, became a human, went through his own development, his own struggle. And even on Thursday, on Holy Thursday, as we celebrate it, and he says, I don't know if I can do this. Let this cup pass from me. This is too difficult. This is too difficult. But he did it because he believed in the Father. He believed in himself and what his mission was. So let's do that. Let's look at ourselves and say, yeah, boy, some of this journey is difficult. Just today, I was, when all of the press came out about Caitlyn Jenner, wow, the hate, the negativity, the people saying, we don't need to see this freak show on TV all the time. I could have spent my entire day, arguing with people, and I chose not to. I engaged in some civil conversations to say, there's a whole other world. There's a whole other group of people out there that you and your one level of existence does not see. And then when they have somewhat of a hero coming out and saying, I've struggled with this all my life, and here's who I am now. Well, now you want to degrade it. You want to say it's a freak show. You want to make fun of it. That is not good. That is not good. Give people a break. Let them be who they are. Let all of you be who you are. And I know that that's difficult. It's difficult for me many times in my role as priest, as pastor, as activist of trying to do different things. I get frustrated at night too. I get angry when I hear about bullying, because that little dark spot that's in my soul wants to form a little militia and go after these bullies and say, you want to see what it's like to be bullied? We're going to show you what it feels like to be bullied. And that's strong, but I have to combat that. I have to say no. That is not what Jesus would have done. He would have shown love, and he would have shown forgiveness, and he would have looked at a solution to the problem. And I think we need to do that more as a community. When we lose one of our own, it affects us. It affects us deeply. So where have we gone today? We've started out looking at Jesus as a child, going through his transition, his own transformation, until becoming the Son of God, and defying death and rising from the dead. Well, talk about powerful. And what does he ask us to do? He says, if you believe, if you can really believe like I do, and trust in God, you will do the same things that I do, and even greater things. Boy, what a powerful gift. What a powerful message he's given. So that's where we are today. I'm ecstatic that you are here, that we're going on this journey together. I hope that you will invite your family and friends, and that every week we'll have more people, and we'll discuss things, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not going to put, as I said at the beginning, I'm just going to post these videos only on here, on the church page. Now, it seems to me that they show up places anywhere, and that's fine if they do. And if you feel like sharing something, you just go right ahead and do that. So, God bless you. You are more important to me than I can express. I am honored every time one of you talked with me and you share your life with me. I'm touched and I'm honored, because I think, what a great thing to do. What trust and what love to say to someone, I want to share who I am with you. And that's a magnificent and powerful thing. So I hope you have a great week. I hope that you look at yourself and say, I can do this. I am strong, I am blessed, and I can go on this journey. And I'm here to help you. We all are here to help. And you'll always have my love and support. Thank you.